Hello, everybody, and welcome to my EdTech Life. I am your host, Fonz Mendoza, otherwise known as Tech Teacher 1381 on Twitter, on Instagram. So you can go ahead and follow us there as well. And I'm very excited that you guys are here today, this morning. Those of you that are just waking up, having that first cup of coffee, maybe having that first bite of breakfast, I really appreciate you guys being here. And thank you always for your support and just really just sharing the show with everybody. Everything's been going great. We're growing, and as you saw, we have a new intro. And I want to thank Mr. Gary Gracia for helping me out with that intro and just doing some of the great things there with those graphics. And want to give a shout out also to WeVideo, because with WeVideo, I mean, WeVideo really puts the we in video. So I'm really excited about them. So thank you. And today we have a special show. I mean, actually, all shows are special because all our guests are wonderful. They're great. They're excellent practitioners, subject matter experts, or just people that are very innovative and they just want to share ideas. And today we have, pretty much all of that bundled in one. So I'm really excited to have Rachel Johnson here, along with Katie Atwell, otherwise known as the Edugals. And if you ever hear of the Edugals, you might go to edugals.com and I'll pop in that link. And they have a wonderful podcast where they put teachers at ease. They talk tech through a podcast, which is something that is wonderful. Again, really useful resource, and especially now through the times of remote learning. So welcome, Edugals. Welcome, Katie. Welcome, Rachel. It's a pleasure to have you here all the way from Ontario, Canada. So Rachel is a high school science teacher, mainly chemistry. She's also the department head there in her school, along with Katie, who's also in the high school, and she works in the ESL department, works with ESL students. And so I'm really excited to have you guys here all the way from Ontario, Canada. And, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and just have our chat here. And Rachel, just tell us a little bit more about your role in school, and maybe just kind of see things through your lens, through this time of remote learning. What are some of the things that you've seen, that, how you've overcome those things, how the students are doing? I know it's a loaded question, but I'm always curious. I'm curious just to hear things from different perspectives.
Oh, yeah. My name is Rachel Johnson. So as Fod said, I'm a chemistry teacher. I also teach other sciences. I do math. I was actually in our school library for a section this semester too. So I wear many hats in my school. And so department head, it's a lot of fun. And I've been at that school for 10 years now. This is going to be my 11th year in education. So it's been a great journey. And it's this last year, it's been a year. Part of my role in my school is also as an IT lead. So sort of really helping our teachers through that remote learning was quite an experience. And just even, little things like having drop-in sessions for staff to come ask questions and really sort of help them out with some of the tools. I think that was probably like the most useful thing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And I understand what you're saying as far as that tech standpoint. Just it's interesting, how pedagogy changed, and now it's, through the tech and you being able to be there for those teachers, like you said, very important role, wearing many hats and just trying to help as many people as you can, just to put them at ease and bring that comfort level during this time. Yeah. Awesome. Katie, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit more about what you do, your role, and, have you had to wear many hats too, as well as, like Rachel stated?
Yeah, definitely. So I teach English as a second language, so ESL. And then I also teach English literacy development, which is like ESL, but for students that don't have literacy in their first language. So it's been challenging. It's especially when we talk remote learning for those kids, because they don't have the language to navigate technology. And, I wasn't anticipating switching to online learning for these kids. So we didn't really focus on, hey, how do I access my email every single day to see if my teachers have emailed me? So it was a bit of an interesting kind of transition. In terms of hats, yes. I also I teach a little bit of Spanish as well, and IB Spanish at our school. So I'm language acquisition all day long. And then I was also a member of our IT team, so supporting teachers with tech.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. And you know what? And especially ESL, like nobody, at least thank you for bringing that up because being just 4 years removed from the classroom and just strictly in the instructional technologist role. I mean, I remember just a little bit about that, but now when you brought that up, it's the language. First of all, it's the language acquisition, but also the digital literacy as well. That could also be a barrier for our students. So I'm thankful for teachers such as yourself that really go above and beyond and really have to think quickly and how to provide tech so
Yeah.
the students can go ahead and continue their learning. And so I'm pretty sure that has been something that's very interesting. So what are some things now that you're looking at, well, that you're seeing that are going to be coming up now in this school year? I know we mentioned prior to the chat that you'd be starting school maybe just a week later. What are some of the preps or the preparations that you guys have been doing just to get ready for this next coming school year?
Yeah, so our board we're switching to what we call Brightspace. It's an LMS system, and so every high school teacher has to create a classroom on this LMS and deliver content and instruction that way. So we're doing a bit of a hybrid model. So sometimes students will be in school, sometimes they'll be learning at home. And so what we're having to do is get staff trained on Brightspace, make sure that they know how to use this online system because it's not as easy as Google. So there are a lot of challenges that way. I'm actually switching schools and I'm a department head. So I'm also now a leader who has to make sure that my department knows how to use this tool. And I know nothing about these teachers. So it's going to be a very challenging year.
Oh, I would imagine so. Just that transition, and like you said, were you using Google before, like Google Classroom, before you were changing to Brightspace? Oh, okay, so that's definitely going to be a transition for a lot of teachers. Getting them up to date and up to speed with the new LMS, and so I applaud your efforts for that because it's definitely something that's not easy to do a transition. Coming into a new school year. How about yourself, Rachel? What are some things that you've seen or noticed?
Yeah, so I was going to add to what Katie said. Like we started with some of the Brightspace training back in the spring. So that was really nice for our teachers to start getting comfortable with that platform. I've used it lots. Like it's the sort of the main LMS that's used in our e-learning programs for our board. So I did e-learning courses for a number of years. So I led a lot of that Brightspace training, and I think our teachers are feeling a bit uneasy about it, and they're going to need a lot of support this year for sure. But yeah, it's the other thing that Katie didn't mention is that our board's going to what we call a Quadmaster model. So instead of courses like typically in Ontario, our kids take 4 courses in a semester, and then they do 4 more courses in the next semester. So instead of that, we're splitting semesters in 2, and we're doing 2 courses only, so that we can keep to like all the cohorting and all the safety sort of protocols that are being put in place. And so we're doing those classes for 10 weeks at a time. But only 2 courses. So I think it's going to be really interesting because I think a lot of teachers are really going to have to rethink, how they're going to approach their assessment and evaluation, and how they're going to plan for these bigger, larger chunks of teaching time, right?
Yeah, I think we have like 3 hours face-to-face in the morning with just 1 course.
Yeah.
So
wow.
That's a long time. And you can't just like stand up there and speak at them, right? So we need to find ways to kind of shift the way we traditionally teach to give them more opportunities to really learn the content and interact.
Oh, wow.
So 3 hours in the morning, and then the kids go home, and then in the afternoon we have 120 minutes with our second class that's virtual.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting. That is very interesting. Like you're saying, like, having to do the accelerated blocks. I guess, here would be block scheduling where you would have, like you said, it's very similar, like 4 courses, one semester, then the next semester. But now you're really accelerating that. And then just having to be there, one of the things that you mentioned that really stuck out is just the rethinking process, rethinking the assessment, rethinking the instruction. And I think for a lot of teachers and even ourselves included, in instructional techs, we're used to also just going to campuses, visiting with teachers, doing sessions face to face. And now through, everything that's has transpired, everybody has had to rethink, pretty much just the way that we do our jobs, and, having to think outside the brick and mortar four walls of a school to now in a virtual setting. And how, like you mentioned, how do you provide or create, assessment, or proper assessments? How are you assessing the learning? And then with all the technology, maybe glitches that may come in the way, all of those things, it's something that is very interesting. And so I know you said, you're training a lot of the teachers, and I know that there's definitely a lot of that uneasiness that comes with that. Are you guys doing anything, just show that support, just kind of helping them out, and maybe not so much in the tech, but just, just assuring them that maybe that emotional learning too as well, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of that going on too as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've just been kind of reassuring my department. They've already started reaching out with concerns because we don't yet know what we're teaching either. So there's this uneasiness of, I need to learn a new platform and get a course set up, but I still don't know what I'm teaching. And so, I think we're just kind of all trying to build each other up, help each other out as much as possible, share whatever resources we can if they end up teaching a course that we normally do. Just kind of doing what we can to support the process.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. We're going right now, like all the school-based leaders, department heads, we're going through this major restaffing and retimetabling all of our schools because our students had a choice of whether they were going to come back and see us face to face or whether they wanted to do school virtually this year, which is great. Our students had that choice, but now we're having to redo all of our classes, redo all of our timetable to fit this Quadmaster. So there's a lot of teachers out there who are really uneasy right now. Including us, right? We don't even know what we're teaching. So just being there, being an ear, having those check-ins and stuff like that, I think has been really beneficial for us.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's something that we were talking about yesterday with Mary Manzano. We had a show and talking about the just teacher well-being and just how do you reach out to teachers. And I think, Katie, I liked one of the things that you said, is just the ability to just share those resources that maybe you've taught something and now they're doing the same thing, and just to help each other out. That collaboration is, I think, something that is just something at least good that's coming out of what we're seeing is more of that collaborative aspect. Because I think one of the things that I always, when we were in the classroom, teachers were just kind of alone in our silos in our own little classroom, and we do what we do. And now it's like, we're having to rethink that too as well, that we can't just be alone here, because it could be very difficult during this time. But if you build those connections, that network, and within your department or, within the district, to, be able to reach out to somebody that can offer some of that help is definitely something that is very useful during this time. So that's great to hear that collaborative aspect of it. So that's great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm always interested in hearing things just from different lenses and the way things are being done. So that's definitely, that quad semester, it's something that is very interesting. And just like I said, wow, like that's a lot of acceleration right there. That is like go. So go ahead. Were you
no, I was just going to say some boards even in our province are going to an octmaster sort of system. So they're doing one course at a time for 5 weeks, almost like summer school for the entire year.
Oh, wow.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, and like you see a lot of school districts, and like you said, you with yourself and Ian here, and they're trying to find the perfect system, but there
Mhm.
really isn't. Like you just
No.
really have to find a balance and what fits, and obviously too, you always want to go like for our state. Our state requires certain mandates and things that have to
Mhm.
be in order. So kind of being within those means and just trying to find creative ways of taking attendance, even creative ways of making sure, like you said, you can assess properly, state assessments and preparing students for that. So
Mhm.
that's definitely a lot of added stress there, for everybody. But so I wanted to talk now, first of all, is getting into the Edugals podcast. Now,
Mhm.
Mhm.
one thing that I love about this, and I'm going to share the screen with our audience right now, and I did put the link there in the Twitter chat, is just what I love here is that you put here, our goal is to help make it easier for all educators to learn and
Mhm.
incorporate technology in the classroom without having to figure out themselves.
Mhm.
And that right there being on the website, one of the first things that I read was just something that is great. And like I was telling you, I really love the layout, and when I see that, I was just like, man, I just feel so relieved, because I know that everything that I'm going to be listening to here is going to be something that is useful, something that I'm going to be using, something that is going to kind of put me at ease. But before we get into that, so I just want to hear, I want to know, and maybe our audience too, just to let them know, how did this idea of the podcast come about to, between you and Rachel and Katie? How did this, idea come to fruition?
So we've been
Yeah.
working together for a while.
Mhm.
Um, and so kind of how it came about is we both like technology, and we like to nerd out together to learn new things or go to different conferences and kind of
Mhm.
figure it all out. And then as our roles on the IT team in our school, it kind of naturally fell where we were creating resources for teachers and
Mhm.
supporting teachers, but we were too scared to do a podcast for the longest time. We are both very introverted, which is really kind of interesting. But yeah, so we were like, oh, we can't do it. There's no way we can pull this off.
Mhm.
Um, and then closures happened, and we were like, well, now I think we have to do this because, there are teachers out there struggling, and we have knowledge to share.
Mhm.
So let's just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I remember right before school closures happened, we were up in our server room, so that's sort of like where our IT team kind of, has their home base. And Katie had just gotten a microphone, and we're like, let's do this. Let's try recording some stuff. Let's record our intro. And yeah, you know, it's tough when you
Yeah.
when you first start a podcast and press that record button. It's so scary, but you just do it and you get used to it. And I think we found a really good rhythm now. So
I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And like I said, it's about 17 episodes in, doing your podcast, and just even
Mhm.
looking at the titles and everything, this is definitely something that is very useful. So guys, it doesn't matter what district you're in, if you're looking out for some great podcasts by some wonderful educators, just go to edugals.com and you'll be able to hear some great podcasts. And of course, they also have their blog set up here. And as far as the blogging is concerned, maybe there we go. The blogging. So are all these blogs just just you guys writing these out for your here for your website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
It's just,
wonderful.
yeah, we just have an idea and we say, well, let's just go
Mhm.
for it. Let's write it out and let's share it.
We
Wow,
actually
wow.
have this giant list of ideas. It's just finding the time to
Yeah.
really sit down and write something. We find it so much easier just to get on a mic and have a conversation about
Mhm.
something. So, the podcast has really kind of picked up with that. And yeah.
Well, this is great. This is one thing that I love, that, through these times or adverse times that we're facing, it's just a lot of educators have really just stepped out of their comfort zone. And like you said,
Mhm.
you guys had so many ideas, and maybe this was something that I was already kind of like, well, how, you just maybe didn't have the time,
Mhm.
because we were still, in our traditional setting. But now we've seen, just, YouTube blow up with so many educators that are out there putting out knowledge, completely free. It's definitely become an EdTech 24-hour party, because anywhere that you look, anywhere that you go on Twitter, through your PLNs and YouTube, educators are putting out some great stuff that could be very useful. And, I'm all about sharing that. And so one of the things that I really enjoyed was, and having you guys on, is just because, just this, for the same reason, the way that this show started was, it's like, hey, you know what, I had an idea, and then, quarantine happened. So I said, okay, now's a good time to just hit play on, on StreamYard, and, let's see where it goes from there. And now it's just, 20, I think we're like 19 shows in now, and very similar aspect, just trying to connect educators and bring people such as yourselves that are doing some great things and sharing your knowledge to, other people. And so that way they can go in, hop on, and just see, things through a different lens. And I think that's something that is wonderful. So as you are going through your podcast, I'd like to know, what is the little rhythm and flow that you go through? Do you guys kind of just pick an idea? Like right now I see, you did do the one for Brightspace, because it's something that right now your district's working on. But prior to that, is it things that are just mainly related there within your district, your schools, or, overall just something that can be used by a lot of people?
I think we really just kind of try and put our feet in the shoes of educators who are just kind of starting out with these tech tools, and we try and think of, well, what topics are they going to need help with? Yeah. And so when we started out with remote learning, we're like, okay, they're going to need help with this topic and this topic. So we've kind of been building on that, and we've got ourselves a really good list now of all of the different things we want to talk about for the next, I don't know, half a year, I think.
Yeah, and it also, we didn't have a good rhythm at first. Well, it was a rhythm. I wouldn't say it was a functional rhythm, but it was kind of like we are like down to the wire if we are releasing it on Tuesday. Like I'm up doing the show notes until like 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Yeah. Because we were still doing a full course load, plus managing families, and then picking up on this podcast. And so it was a bit crazy. But now we're actually more organized.
Yeah, we're definitely more organized. We took a couple weeks off in the summer because we were feeling a little burnt out ourselves. So yeah.
And so, like you said, burnout. I mean, that's something that's definitely on everybody's radar, ever since, March and your school closures and going digital. And I think that really a lot of teachers, they really didn't get too much of a break, in the sense that a lot of teachers, even though they were off contract, were still attending PDs. A lot of them were searching for stuff on their own. And so that really does take a toll, mentally, and even, physically you may be okay, but mentally it just really does take a toll being on that screen for so long and doing all of that. So that's definitely something that is an important topic to talk about too, is just that self-care. And so for you guys, you said you took some weeks off in the summer, focusing on family and things of that sort, how did that feel? Just because I mean, I'm just asking this because maybe a lot of people right now, a lot of teachers maybe like, I don't even remember what that feels like, but just tell us a little bit about that. You don't have to go into detail as far as what you did, but how did you feel coming back from that little nice mental break and just kind of disconnect after a while?
Definitely refreshed. Although it was very strange not meeting up with Katie every single week to record. I think once we got back to it, we're like, wow, we missed this, because really for our mental health and be able to just talk through things and have that conversation back and forth like that does help our mental health too, right?
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice to have a couple of weeks where I didn't feel like there was a deadline looming. So no, it was good. I felt much more refreshed, and then we kind of recorded a few, so now we're a little bit ahead of the game, a little bit.
There you go. So that's always good, trying to stay ahead of the game. Here it's like I always try and stay ahead, but I can't. I mean, it's a week by week, and but I'm loving it. Like I said, I think just giving up that little time on Saturdays and just to bring a guest on that is really going
Mhm.
to help, so many others, and just kind of see like, hey, you know what, I'm not alone in this, or
Hmm.
wow, like, because people may follow you on Twitter, they may follow you, through your podcast, and you're like, man, these ladies, they really have it together. Everything's going well. But, you don't understand. We're all human, we all go through the same things. And now that you guys are saying, taking that nice little break,
Hmm.
just feeling refreshed, and, the fact that you two work very well together. And
Mhm.
like you said, very important thing. It's like you're able to talk to one another, kind of vent,
Mhm.
get those ideas, get that out. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of teachers need to do now is just really just talk things through, and
Hmm.
just know that they're not alone. And I think it's great that you guys have a belief buddy in one another. And that's something that I'm quoting from Mary Manzano yesterday, which is, it's something that was important, somebody
Yeah.
who has an idea, and then you just need that one person, that belief buddy, that's gonna, back you up. And you're doing some wonderful things, through your blogs and your podcast. And more than anything, what you're doing is helping people within your district, and how to talk them through,
Mhm.
integrating tech, and just
Hmm.
putting them at ease, and just they can listen to that podcast, while they're washing dishes, or eating
Hmm.
breakfast, having a cup of coffee, and the learning's always going on. But it's
Mhm.
just something that's great. So it's kind of like a little personal PD hub
Hmm.
for them to go to. So that is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And we always try to have really detailed show notes, because sometimes I'm the type of learner. Sorry. Sometimes, like, I don't learn well by listening.
Mhm.
Sometimes I need to see it. So we also try to provide the notes for teachers to be able to then go and take a
Mhm.
look, see some screenshots, have some step by step if needed, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
Nice. That's wonderful. That's definitely very
Yeah.
useful, because you are right that although you can, and what I love about podcasts is that, I mean, you can learn anywhere at any time without having to
Mhm.
focus on the screen.
yeah.
However, you do have those visual learners too as well, that
Hmm.
would like to read and then see those step by steps, and that's great. That is
Mhm.
definitely a useful tool, because you're kind of hitting those different modalities of
Hmm.
learning within the educators themselves. So I think that's
Mhm.
very useful. For as far as my show notes, it's just really a summary of what we talked about, and then I'll just put in your Twitter links there, and then your podcast link, and then say,
Mhm.
here you go. That's pretty much the extent of my show notes, just because I said, it's very,
Yeah.
it's just more of an informative show. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and just keep up the hard work. And so, any other projects coming up, maybe possibly branching out, maybe every once in a while, maybe throwing it out there, maybe on StreamYard or something. Maybe I can't believe it. I can't believe you guys said that this is your first time being on camera,
Yep.
on a
Yeah.
live show. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful and honored that I'm your first show that you guys do live. And maybe that might be something that you guys might venture into at some point,
Hmm.
maybe.
Yeah.
What do you
It's an
guys think?
idea that's come up. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think that's something great. And well, I mean, I know for use cases for education, I know that there's a lot of teachers that are using StreamYard
Yeah.
to put out their classes, and do the
Mhm.
stream. Everything records. You still have the class comment, uh, option and all there and everything. So that's great. But
Mhm.
Rachel, Katie, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today, and taking this little time of your morning to really share the wonderful things that you're doing through podcasting, and the technology integration, and just helping teachers feel at ease. And a lot of those teachers that probably listen to the podcast are teachers within your district. So also, that's a big benefit, that you get teachers that hear that familiar voice.
Hmm.
They get to
Mhm.
see you and say, hey, you know
Mhm.
what, and you never know how the great impact that you guys are making. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time. And guys, everybody that's watching and listening, thank you so much. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you guys for your support. And the Wakelet will be coming up soon, so you'll be able to watch a replay of the show, and you'll also be able to listen to us on Anchor. So go ahead and check that out. We'll be posting that on Twitter. So thank you guys. Don't forget that this, in a couple of hours, in about 2 hours, we'll be live again also with Mr. Bruce Reicher as well, and and we'll be talking to the authors of Scripted, which is a wonderful book of dealing with media content. So check us out for that show. And hopefully, when Miss Rachel and Katie, maybe someday, you guys will do something You know, when you guys write your book, when you guys do something, hey, I just want to let you know that you guys will always have an open invitation. So feel free to reach out at any time, any projects that you'd like to share, you know, with the world or with a different audience. You know, just let us know. Open invitation is always here. So thank you guys for everything that you do. I appreciate it. Continue on the hard work. And I wish you both the best in this coming school year.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you guys. Y'all take care. Y'all enjoy your rest of your day. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget, stay techie, my friends.